What's up, Internet? Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com here to go over my reactions to today's Nintendo Treehouse event. The big 8-hour stream covering kind of three games, if you count Pokemon Sun and Moon as two separate games. Obviously, the big event today was the about 7 hours, I think, they dedicated to The Legend of Zelda. Kicked it off with a brand new trailer for the game, showcasing just how big the world is that they've created, showcasing things like wildlife. Link can climb and jump, and so those are new things. He was fighting baddies a lot. He went a little bit into some shrines and temples, and all the while this whole trailer underscored by very subtle music in the beginning, but then kind of growing and being bombastic, leading up to, I think, the kind of the climactic image of seeing the Master Sword in its standard place in the middle of a forest, stuck in a pedestal. If you've played any Zelda games, that's since at least Link to the Past, that's pretty much an iconic image. Yeah, very beautiful trailer, and then it kind of ended with Link looking out upon the vast world of Hyrule, and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild appeared. So we have a formal title for the game, as I predicted. Still no release date, though, so that prediction's only half spot on. There was a little bit of as I mentioned, a little bit of an aside into Pokemon Sun and Moon, but then they spent most of the rest of the day kind of showcasing the world of Hyrule and all of the some of the new features. I'm sure not all of them. Kind of showing off for people who were there at E3. It looks like they get probably about a half hour to 40-minute demo of the game, where this initial open world, the old plateau, I think is what they were calling it. It's kind of open to anybody. You can kind of go and explore and do whatever you want, because they know that in 30 minutes you're not going to see nearly anything compared to how big and expansive the world is. In the 7 hours they dedicated to it, they barely scratched the surface, it seems. So yeah, they kicked it off with presumably the opening of the game, female voice saying, "Open your eyes, wake up, Link," as he's laying in a shallow pool of water. The water drains away, Link wakes up, and the little Chiron title popped up that indicating he is in a Shrine of Resurrection. So if you feed into the theory that all Legend of Zelda games are connected, and this is Link, kind of the hero of time, reincarnated over and over and over again in every game, this kind of seems to be really playing into that whole notion, really supporting that idea. And I'm trying to remember if this is kind of the first game that has really come out since that whole unified Zelda world theory became pseudo kind of canon, or if it might have been Skyward Sword, or, well, A Link Between Worlds was definitely probably after that. So, but yeah, I like that they're acknowledging that, and that seems like a subtle nod to that. Right out the gate, they kind of introduced that Link now has to throw on shirts and pants and stuff in terms of his armor, so that's a new element, kind of going much more in the direction of like an RPG version of this game. And then he leaves this shrine and kind of walks out to that expansive view that you see at the kind of the end of the trailer, overlooking the forest below, seeing dark mountains in the distance. Very beautiful shot, very reminiscent to me as kind of the first time leaving the vault in Fallout 3, where you're out there and the world is yours to explore. They're not holding your hand saying this is where you need to go. They do a little bit and say this is where you need to go, this is where you should go, but you don't have to. You're in the same way in Fallout. You are free to do with this world as you please. You might run into some kind of blockades until you find certain things, but it looks like they're very much saying, we've created this playground for you, enjoy. Over the course, I didn't watch the whole day's worth of footage, but over the course of the segments I did see, feels like a very different Legend of Zelda. You've got, instead of finding hearts in the grass or in breaking pots and stuff, it's now regaining health is now based around food, and you can even cook food and restore more health. You still have hearts, that's still kind of the health meter, but it's not finding a heart in the field, it's eating an apple to restore a quarter of a heart piece or something like that. Another thing they showed off pretty early on, weapons and shields degrade in this game, meaning a lot of your time is probably going to be spent managing your inventory. They did kind of showcase that you can take weapons from your enemies in battle. So if you block a guy attacking you with a spear, he'll drop the spear. You can pick it up and attack him with his own spear, and you now have that spear. But yeah, your weapons will degrade, they'll break, so you don't have them anymore. One of my friends online was supposing that perhaps the Master Sword is immune to that, and that is one of the things that will make it such a valuable item in the game. We'll see if that amounts to anything. But yeah, it was very much they likened it to a more survival type game. So it definitely feels like it's taking cues from games like Minecraft and Skyrim and even like Dark Souls in terms of the combat and how it looked like there was. It's not just hack and slash. You do have to kind of maneuver and dodge and roll away to if you want to survive. Another one of the newly touted features that they showcased was traversal throughout the game. Like I said earlier, Link is now an avid jumper and climber. They talked about how they've really expanded the world, and because it's such a larger world, they really played with the verticality of this world. So you have Link able to scale mountains and climb the ruined shrines that we saw kind of in this plateau. And they also showed an item that I saw, kind of like a big leaf, I think, basically a hang glidery type thing where you can jump off of a. They show it in the trailer as well. You jump off of a cliff, and excuse me, and kind of hover to the ground below. So yeah, it seems like, and that of course you've got. Wow, really wish I could edit so I can get rid of this stuff. Oops. On my to-do list. Whew! My face is probably very red right now. Yep. Anyway. Whew. Not dead. They showed in the trailer also a little bit, of course, of riding animals around the world. I didn't see any of that in the gameplay that I witnessed today, but they might have delved into it. Again, I only saw probably an hour or two throughout the course of the day. So yeah, lots of ways to get around this world. I'll be curious to see if there is kind of like a fast travel element to it as well, or if they really want you to enjoy the world around you and enjoy the time in the world. I did see them go into a little bit of like the ruins in the world. Not full-blown dungeons per se, or shrines in the traditional Zelda sense, like the shrines from Ocarina of Time, for example. But these little ruins, these mini dungeons, each featured a couple of puzzles that you kind of had to solve. There were a couple random treasure chests that you could go pick up, and ultimately, kind of your reward for completing the puzzles and solving the little mini dungeon. Seem to be some kind of collectibles that can probably be traded in for, or that can be traded in for a gear such as the the item that they showcased earlier, where Link can kind of float off of a cliff down to the world below. Very much feels like a return to like the original Nintendo Zelda, where you can kind of experience a lot of this world in whatever order you choose, with no real direct sequence of dungeons. And I know they've kind of, I think, hinted at that as a talking point so far. So we'll see. They did confirm that the game features over 100 of these kinds of ruins or shrines or dungeons that you can kind of explore and investigate. So as somebody who skipped the last two major console installments of the series, Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, I have them. I just never, by the time I ended up getting them from my family, I had already basically left my Wii behind. And then as somebody who also played a bit of A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS, but never really got into it, despite A Link to the Past being my favorite game of the series, I very much walked in today kind of having written this game off. It wasn't anything that I was interested in. But today changed that, and that's really cool. It's really awesome to be excited about Legend of Zelda again for the first time in like 14 years since Wind Waker came out. Going into the conference, one of my predictions basically said that a localization of Mother 3 was probably the only thing that could get me to turn my Wii U back on. This might change that. I don't know if I'll end up getting this on the Wii U or whatever the NX console ends up being. It will very much depend on what else that system includes, and price and what other games are out there and all that stuff. But worst case scenario, I'll pick this game up on the Wii U and throw it in and just explore the world, because yeah, it looks like they've created something special here, and that's really cool. Great to see. On the other hand, you had Pokemon Sun and Moon, which very much kicked off the event on a very sour note. They did the Zelda trailer, and then they went into Sun and Moon for an hour, and then they devoted the rest of the day back to Zelda. And everybody I saw was pretty much saying, no, just go back to Zelda, we don't want to see this anymore. Because it was very much hitting on the same notes I've seen in the 20 years of the Pokemon franchise. And as somebody who bought every game up until X and Y, out of habit and the collector-hoarder nature of myself, I'm just kind of over it. They showed off a few new characters that you'll encounter. They showed off a few new Pokemon throughout this live gameplay demo that they did. And they explained some adjustments to the UI, like now if you battle a Pokemon and then you battle them again, the UI will say, if a move is going to be super effective against that Pokemon because you have a history with them. So they're definitely doing what they can to make the game continually ever more accessible to new players and even maybe people who've lapsed and are coming back. But nothing about this wowed me. The big new thing I think they showed off was 4-player Battle Royale multiplayer mode, where each player can bring in up to 3 Pokemon in a match, depending on the rules of said match. And basically all players pick their moves and choose who they want to attack. You can attack any of your opponents, and the fight kind of continues until one of the trainers has lost all their Pokemon, and then points are kind of doled out based on how many Pokemon you defeated versus how many of your Pokemon were defeated. The latest in a long string of the multiplayer modes that they've kind of been exploring since the first game. And that's just never what I played Pokemon for, so that's never something that's appealed to me. So we will see tomorrow if Pokemon Go has anything that might bring me back to the series. They're kicking off, I think, tomorrow's stream with a in-depth interview with the developers of that game. But ultimately, there's nothing bringing me back to Pokemon Sun, Pokemon Moon, or any other Pokemon game in the horizon at the moment. So very different experiences walking away from today, where my interest in the Legend of Zelda franchise has been completely revitalized, and Pokemon just not. It's very much a series that is kind of dead to me until they do something to change. Legend of Zelda changed a lot of things and are making a very different Legend of Zelda, and Pokemon is just doing the same game that they've been making for 20 years, and I don't know how much longer that's going to work out for them. I feel like the games kind of dip a little bit every time because they're just losing people and not bringing in as many new fans to the series. So overall, I saw a lot of. I feel like I saw a lot of the same kind of sentiment going around online among my circles. A lot of people who maybe hadn't played Zelda or had no interest in Zelda suddenly interested or excited about the game again. And again, Pokemon Sun and Moon, very much not the case. So those are my thoughts. If you had any thoughts on the two games kind of that were shown off today, let me know what you thought in the comments below. You can, as always, read kind of my full detailed write-up over at trevortrove.com. And follow me on Twitter at SnarkyStarky. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good YouTube stuff. And I will, all things going according to plan, I will see you tomorrow with my thoughts on the rest of the Nintendo live stream thing and the games they discuss tomorrow. So until then, I will see you next time.